AWS WAF. There are a lot of videos out there on the technical aspects of the web application firewall from AWS, but not many of them actually show the process and how to implement it and how to approach it. So in this video, I'll show you our process and how we use our three-step system to actually implement it without causing any interruptions to production, any downtime. So here, let's dive into it. So let's start with a small recap on what a web application firewall actually is. And basically, it is a component that you put in the network between your website and the users. Maybe your website, maybe it could be your API endpoints. And it inspects the requests, right? It looks for malicious content and it is rule-based. And if a rule matches, it blocks the traffic. So this is a very useful way to add security to your endpoints and APIs. Okay, so with the web application firewall, you can very quickly add geo-blocking. So this is blocking countries, traffic coming in from countries you may not want them to come from. You can block bots. You can protect from known attacks. So maybe the log4j, that is one example. And then block malicious payloads. This could be SQL injections, cross-site scriptings. There are a lot of rules on that can actually help you. And it's pretty much a no-brainer for most projects. So if you have a production project that you put a lot of effort into, and you're not in the hundreds of millions of requests, this could be very affordable, and I highly recommend it. I really think it's a no-brainer. And then, but the question is, can it block legitimate traffic? Can it cause any issues? And the answer is yes, it could. So false positives are the way of life with web application firewalls, and you have to be ready for it. What it means is that maybe you have a request from an IP that the web application firewall deems as anonymous, for example, if you enable that, and it blocks a legitimate request from one of your servers. So how do you deal with it? That could be a risk in your project, right? So we have a simple, straightforward three-step process to actually implement the web application firewall. So the way is that you first enable the rules in count mode. So you override the action. So a rule can have an action. If we have an SQL injection matched in the traffic, we will block it. So instead we're saying, wait, don't do that. We start with just tagging it, just logging it, and then later we review everything. We prepare to scope down, meaning telling the rule, please ignore this or that, like making an exception in the rule set. And only then later, maybe a day later, maybe a week later, when we have more confidence, that's when we actually enable blocking for the web application firewall. And with this process, we actually managed to set it up for a lot of our clients with not a lot of hiccups. And I hope this will help you. So let me show you how to do it. Okay, so for this demo, let's say that I have a CloudFront distribution for a Next.js web application. So let me create a web ACL, and let's call it WAF demo, and then attach the right distribution. Okay, and click next. Now we want to add the rules, and this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add the managed rule sets. Okay, these are rules. Most of them are free from AWS, meaning no additional cost, not necessarily free. Okay, and let's enable AWS IP reputation list, anonymous IPs, and the core rule sets. And just to see what it means and actually implement our process, right? We have the count, scope down, and blocking. So let's start with count. Okay, so you see that we have a few rule sets. We have reputation, IP reputation list. We have a reconnaissance list and DDoS list. But what I'm going to do, by the way, the default action here is to block. So if I would just enable it, it will start blocking. I'm going to say, no, I'm going to override the action here. So all actions here, instead of block, they will all be count. And count means logging. Okay, so I'll save this rule. And then let's go to the next one that we want to add. We'll do the same for the anonymous IP, right? Every rule set that we add, we actually make sure to override it to count. So we're saying, I don't care what AWS recommends doing at this point. I'm just going to override it. Okay, so that was the first step. Let's enable rule. And I'm just going to create it. Okay, so we have the web application firewall for this distribution installed. So let's make a legitimate request. Then what happens when we make a different request? Okay, so I made a few requests from a server that I have in a server farm. So let's see what happened. Okay, so let's head over to the actual rule set and look at the sampled requests. We're going to see a few interesting things. Okay, so we have a few requests that were allowed, but then we also see that we have a few requests where the request is counted. So the action is count. That means that technically, if this rule set, right, if the AWS managed rule set for anonymous IP, right, the hosting provider IP list specifically matched, then this request could have been blocked. Okay, so this process actually saved us some headaches, right? We have a legitimate request that could have been blocked. So what do we do about this? This is a step where we scope down. Okay, so let's go back to the rules that we have and actually scope down. So let's go to the anonymous IP list, right? We know that the rule matched there. And let's edit it. And you can see that the rule action, the default one for hosting provider IP list, is block. Okay, so we have a problem here. So how do we overcome it? And so the way we do it is by scoping down the inspection. So let's do a scope down statement. Okay, so in this case, we want this rule to basically work for every request except for. Okay, so we're saying don't inspect the following. Okay, so if the request originated from an IP address, a specific one, an IP set, and I cheated, right? I created one ahead of time in the IP sets, right? So I just added it there, and I created a list of allowed IP addresses. Clicked it here. I say this is the source IP address. Okay, and I save the rule. Now that I will make the request, basically, it will not be blocked. Okay, so this is going to be a legitimate request, so I can save it. But so now let's take it one step further, right? Because I'm confident. It's been a week. I looked over all of the requests that we had, right? And at least for this rule set, we mapped out all the IPs and we fixed everything. So now we feel confident enough to block, right? So what I'm going to do is just remove the override that I have, click save, and that's it. So now when I make the request, I'm expecting it not to be blocked. So let's see what happens. This is my server. I'm making a request. And we're blocked. Let's see why am I blocked now. So this is a good example. So sampled requests. Let's see if we have anything that is blocked. Oh, we see a block. So let's validate that our rule is correct, right? We have this IP address. Let's go to IP sets. Let's make sure it matches. No, it does not match. Let's add an IP address. So this is a good way to show it. Okay, I added the IP address now, and let's make the same request. Did I save it? Okay, I added the request. I added the IP address. Let's go to the web ACL again. Let's go to rules, anonymous IPs. You can see the IP addresses now. Oh, and now it is. It took it a minute to propagate. But you can see now the request actually works. So you were able to see a false positive, how we actually fixed it, and how we made sure this is working. Okay, so this is our process, right? We started with setting the requests to count. Then we scoped down after reviewing the logs and finding our false positives. And then we blocked again. So this is a process. I will have more videos on how to use specific things in AWS Web Application Firewall. I hope you find this useful. And really, there is no reason not to use this service. Unless the cost is major, I think this is pretty much a no-brainer. To add, you increase your security levels in so many ways, and don't ignore it. And of course, if you have any questions, if you need help with this process, just leave a comment and follow this channel. This is a new channel that we just started, just created, and we will be adding more videos to it.